it's not necessary. No? And the tax code kasi only provide a penalty. No? Some people will say that I'll just be penalized.
But that doesn't mean that the taxes that were withheld was not turned over. Hindi ibig sabihin.
Hindi ho. Hindi ho ibig sabihin.
Maraming salamat. Salamat po.
Mr. President, Senator Cayetano wishes to be recognized, and then Senator Drilon, and then thereafter Senator Ralph Recto, Mr. President.
In that order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ma'am, magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon ho.
Just some questions to clarify. Sabi niyo po may nakita kayong discrepancy sa SAL-N ng Chief Justice. Tama po ba yan? Observation niyo. What do you mean discrepancies?
Well, first, sir, the most important thing in the SAL-N is the acquisition cost column. No? The SAL-N of the Chief Justice, he does not fill up the acquisition cost column. And secondly, based on the cars that were issued, there were property that should have been registered on a certain year, but it was not registered. It was registered subsequently, no? And then there were properties that were not registered.
Okay. Let's stop there because as the defense had been pointing out, it's important that competent yung isang person mag-testify on that matter. And I wouldn't have asked you kung hindi ka tinanong din nung ni Justice Cuevas. No? But my point is, and to be fair to everyone, just because may discrepancies, hindi ibig sabihin na illegal to o mali na to. Meaning, it could be, but it could also be explainable, correct?
It is possible, sir.
Yes. Meaning you're just giving your observation that you saw it at sa tingin mo may discrepancies. But to be fair to the side of the Chief Justice, it's possible that it can be explained.
Yes, sir. It's for him
to explain. For example, sabi niyo po, hindi nilagay mode of acquisition. Kasi ang alam ko dyan, you can have a choice whether, pagdating sa price, you can either put the appraised or assessed value or you can put the acquisition cost. No? Ang nakalagay kasi dito sa SAL niya, mode of acquisition, hindi yung price no? nung acquisition. No? But we're not here to argue this. I just wanted to point out, because going to another point, that the point is you have a presumption of innocence, but then if you can show that there is property not included here, or even it is included, pero hindi mo mapakita na sa income mo, kaya mong bilhin yon, then the presumption shifts, di ba? Nagiging presumption na meron kang ill-gotten wealth. And then the defense can now show na can try to explain, and if they can explain kung saan galing ang pera at legitimate yung pera, then na-overthrow ulit ang presumption. No? So, my point, ma'am, kasi kanina nag-testify kayo na yung isang daughter, was it Sharina, nagkaroon kayo ng investigation dahil sabi niyo wala siyang income pero nakabili ng property. Okay. Did you ask her or did you call her or give her an opportunity to answer, or at the stage of your investigation it didn't call for that yet?
It is just came to our attention while we're preparing for the impeachment case.
Okay.
And I didn't have any opportunity to go back to my office and do my work. No?
So you
I
are
don't have the
simply
opportunity.
testifying on your personal knowledge and the usual course of the procedure when something is brought up to your knowledge.
Yes, sir.
Yes. But meaning, to be fair again to the defense and to everyone, there is a possibility when she is asked to explain, she will be able to explain.
There is a possibility,
Yes.
sir.
And for example, for those possibilities, halimbawa ma'am, pagka kayo ba'y kumita sa stock market halimbawa, di ba final tax yon, hindi ka naman magfa-file talaga ng income tax doon, di ba?
Oho, pero ang problema ho doon is dapat ho meron kayong unang kapital, no?
Yes.
Eh, wala naman ho siyang
And
income.
are you familiar with the presidential decree of President Marcos which prohibits gifts to public officials?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the exception?
Not really, sir.
To family members, donations of small amounts or of reasonable amounts are allowed. So if for 18 years, binibigyan mo anak mo ng 50, 100,000 pesos a year for 18 years, then you would have 1.8 million when you're already 18 years old. No, so I'm not giving or testifying for anyone here. I'm just saying, balansehin natin that tama po yung sinabi nyo. There has to be capital.
Yes, sir.
But I'd also like to point out that that's why the burden is on the prosecution to show that there are in fact properties na hindi mapaliwanag. But kung mapakita nilang hindi nga mapaliwanag, nagsishift na yung burden na ito. And I just didn't like to end the day na you did your job well and you testified on your personal knowledge, but then hindi natin makumpleto yung picture just on your testimony. That's why I wanted to clarify those matters. No? Lastly, Your Honor, you got authority from the President to testify on the income tax returns, correct?
To bring the income tax, yes.
And to testify on it,
Yes.
right? Can a taxpayer waive his right?
Yes.
Meaning ako, sabihin ko, halimbawa, challenge ng media, o lahat ng prosecution, pakita nyo rin ang SAL nyo. Lahat ng judges, pakita nyo rin, o BIR nyo, ilabas. Can we write you a letter and say na ipakita nyo?
Yes, sir.
Can we waive it in favor of a different person? May waive it na sinasabi ko, the Secretary of the Senate is authorized to look at my income tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In effect, you're telling me to allow
Correct.
him to look at it.
No, because again, to be fair to Your Honor, let me just read the statement behind, no, which was signed by public officials when they do the SAL. I hereby authorize the Ombudsman or his duly representative, mali ata English. Dapat duly, his duly representative. Binabasa ko lang po to, hindi ko to English. To obtain and secure. Hindi, ito po nakalagay. I hereby authorize. I'm reading behind the Exhibit G1. I hereby authorize the Ombudsman or his duly representative to obtain and secure from all appropriate government agencies, including the Bureau of Internal Revenue, such documents that may show assets, liability, net worth, business interests, and financial connections to include those of my spouse and unmarried children below 18 years of age living with me in my household, covering previous years, to include the year I first assumed office in government. I'm saying this because apparently hindi unusual na tignan ang SAL at tignan ang tax records ng isang public official. In fact, baliktad. Dapat tinitignan ng ombudsman at dapat may nagbabantay dahil ito magiging basihan kung tapat ang isang public official or kung siya'y nagpapayaman.
Parati ho kaming hinihingan ng ombudsman ng SAL-N namin at income tax return.
Thank you, Mr. President. My time is up. I have a number of other questions, but let me give way to the other senator judges.
I just want to clarify one point. Madam Commissioner, just for the information of this court, when you do a net worth method of investigating any taxpayer, you use acquisition cost, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Not the value, not the fair market value.
Yes, sir.
Acquisition cost against liabilities
Real liabilities,
and
sir.
income.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Drilon, Mr. President.
The gentleman from Iloilo.
Madam Witness,
Yes, sir.
you know, for many of us, we heard of the Alpha list for the first time only yesterday. And from the way we understood your testimony, where the income is only from one source, then it is the employer who in effect files the income tax return, and the taxpayer need not file an income tax return.
Yes, if the income is from one source and that withholding tax are properly withheld,
Yes.
then the annual alpha list will take the place of the income tax return and the person need not file an income tax return.
So that if there are other sources of income, you have to file an income tax return and you have to pay the taxes, if any.
Yes, sir. If there are other sources of income or if the taxes were less than what you have to pay, you have to file an income tax return.
With the permission of Senator Drilon, would the withholding applies to bonuses and allowances?
Yes, sir.
The party paying the bonus and the allowances will have to withhold the
Yes,
corresponding
sir.
tax.
Yes, sir. The only exemption is up to 30,000, and for government official, it's the RATA, the representation allowance and transportation allowance, and the PERA. Those are the only exemptions, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you earlier mentioned that after you received the subpoena on this particular matter of Chief Justice Corona, you went one step farther. I heard that phrase. Can you tell us exactly what you meant by going one step farther?
Sir, because the subpoena said income tax return of the people involved. No? So we looked for the income tax return and we cannot find any. No? So, but we know that he is employed, and therefore we gave instruction to find out where the Supreme Court file is a taxpayer. And we asked the RDO for if the Supreme Court submit alpha lists and to provide us with the alpha list. So that's the one step further that we meant, sir.
And Chief Justice Corona was in the alpha list submitted by the Supreme Court.
Yes, sir.
And since you mentioned that the alpha list would only be feasible where you have one source of income from one employer where withholding tax was done, it means that in the case of Chief Justice Corona, your records will show that he had only one source of income, and that is his salary from the Supreme Court. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir. And that salary is only, that income is the amount shown in the alpha list.
That income is what is shown in the alpha list. Does the alpha list indicate whether it is basic salary, bonus, etc.?
It has different columns. It includes their non-taxable bonuses and gratuities. Then the GSIS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth contribution. It's in the column, sir.
In the case of Chief Justice Corona, where did the compensation, on which column did his compensation appear?
Sir, can I?
Yes, you may.
I'll just get one.
Yes.
With Justice Corona, the column is like this. No? There's a gross compensation income. It says, under the gross compensation, it has a subheading non-taxable. And under non-taxable, there's GSIS, PHIC, and HDMF. The amount there is 23,374.74. Then there's a bonus and slash benefits. It said there 30,000. Then it said taxable, there's a taxable subcolumn, and it said there bonus slash benefit, which is taxable, 27,417. Then another subcolumn saying salaries and others, 604,388.46.
What year was that?
Year 2008. Then there's an amount of exemption. I think this is personal exemption. It said 41,000. Then tax due January to December, it's 154,057.75. Then it said tax withheld January to December, 157,236.24. Then because there's a column over withheld tax or refunded, there's under withheld tax. There's over withheld, no? So 3,178.49. So his tax withheld as adjusted is 154,057.75.
154,057.75. And therefore he got a refund.
when you're in the alpha list, it's a requirement and